Interview, Paul Newman. It doesn't make any difference whether it's LSD or angel dust or cocaine or booze. People are just looking around for a sledgehammer somewhere along the line. I gave up hard liquor because I simply couldn't handle it. That was my sledgehammer. We were finishing Sometimes a Great Notion. I don't know if it was the pressure of the picture, but I was really out of line. Now, not long after Ken Kesey died in 2001, I found myself drinking beer in the Bay Haven, an ancient tavern on Newport's Bayfront. There I noticed hanging on a wall a framed poster of promotional stills from Sometimes a Great Notion, the movie. Now, who's seen the film? Here. Now, who's read the novel? Who's finished the novel? Okay, good. Discount tonight. It was filmed in and around Lincoln County in 1970, includes scenes shot in the Bay Haven, which stood in for the Snag Saloon from the novel. I asked the bartender and a few other patrons if they had seen the movie. They all had. In fact, several had also read the novel. As we talked about the book and the movie, a thickly bearded man wearing a red baseball cap emerged from an alcove, sheltering the video poker machines. He moved toward me slowly, holding a Hamm's can, and then sat next to me at the bar. He said he had a story about the movie, a story about Paul Newman. Would I like to hear it? Yes, I would. I ordered him another Hamm's. He appeared anywhere from 40 to 70 years old, or what I call OTA, Oregon Tavern age. The story went, one night in 1970, the man was drinking in a tavern in Toledo, 8 miles east of Newport. In walked an unaccompanied Paul Newman carrying a chainsaw. He was wearing a fake chest, said the man. The man explained that Newman wore some kind of padding under his shirt, evidently to appear bulkier. That Newman still wore the padding and carried the chainsaw meant he might have come right off the location in and around Toledo where some of the scenes were filmed. Newman didn't say anything. The patrons recognized him because, well, at the time he was the biggest movie star in the world. He fired up the chainsaw, sawed the legs off the pool table, and sent the slate crashing to the floor. Newman left without saying a word. Come on, you're bullshitting me, I said. I then reminded him of a scene from the movie where Newman's character enters the union office with a chainsaw and cuts up the place. Remember the scene? I know that scene, he said. That was acting in Newport. I was in a bar in Toledo. Newman was there. He was drunk out of his mind. I have no reason to lie. I don't even know you. A few minutes later, the man disappeared and I never got his name. When I heard that story, it was like a drug. And the whole editorial emphasis of this book is to find out if this story is true. So 2 summers ago, I performed, I gave a talk about the movie and we screened the film out at the Union Hall in Toledo. There was about 200 people there. It was packed to the gills. People coming in with photos. I mean, I've got 300 photos already. And subsequently, Toledo High School's video production team shot a video of me making the performance, and it's been showing on cable access. So never underestimate the power of cable access, by the way. So about a week after that thing airs, I got an email from a woman. She goes, I thought you might want to know this story. My grandfather was in the bar that night. It's a family legend. In fact, later on, when I was older, he took me to a bar and walked over to a wall in the bar, and there was a leg of a pool table affixed to the wall, and etched on the leg said, Paul Newman was here. I almost had a stroke. I emailed her back, no response. Emailed her back, no response. I've never heard from her again. Now she obviously lives in Lincoln County, and I went out and she had, I don't know where she was. I floated her name out to some people. I mean, I literally went out to Celeste and went knocking door to door to find out this person, but they disappeared. So I've got this story. I tracked down the owner of the bar that is purported to have happened, which is now the Timbers on the main drag in Toledo. And I interviewed the guy. He bought it in December of '71, so he's owned it for almost 40 years. And he looks right down and he goes, that didn't happen. I bought this place and there was two pool tables. They both had their legs on it when I bought it in 1971. He says, you're being lied to. So I don't know. Last summer, I'm in Manzanita. Somebody comes up to me, taps me on the shoulder. Are you Matt Love? I go, yeah. He goes, I heard you're doing something about Sometimes a Great Notion. I go, yeah. He says, well, you know, I got a story. I don't know if you want to hear this. But I was in the Kernville Tavern in 1990 on the exact day because he was going to Newport with his buddies to celebrate his brother's birthday. And I was getting golf lessons in the tavern because he was a former golf pro. And the guy was practicing his takeaway, and he says, yeah, there used to be a pool table in here, but Paul Newman came in and saw the legs on it. And Kernville is a long way from Toledo. And I said, that's really interesting. And he says, well, they were long-term Salishan locals, because Newman and all the entourage stayed at Salishan. Henry Fonda, Saracen, Joanne Woodward. I mean, it was the biggest thing that ever happened in Lincoln County. Imagine if Brad and Angie came down here with all their kids and their pets and stayed for an entire summer with no entourage. None, no security. These people got so close to these stars, and Newman was out of his mind. And I subsequently read a bunch of biographies about Paul Newman. Well, lo and behold, he was one of the greatest binge drinkers in American history. And he finally gave that up when his son finally overdosed. Many of you know that story. But reading the biographies, he was a notorious practical joker. And one time he walked in to the director of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, George Roy Hill, whipped out a chainsaw and cut his desk in half over a dispute over a liquor tab. Predated this. He also, one time, got upset with the producer in one of his movies, or it was a joke. Guy had a sports car. Newman took an arc welder to it and cut it in half and gave it to the the producer. So he has this, it's documented, this practical joke stuff in him. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, I'm going to go to the depths of Oregon history. I'm going to find out. And I've got about a third of the way of the book done. And of course, the movie has never been released on DVD, but lo and behold, I have 2 copies of the DVD right here in my hand. Why is it a film that starred Paul Newman, that was about Ken Kesey, and based on Ken Kesey's novel? Why hasn't that ever been released on DVD? It's a mystery that I'm trying to uncover. So, I have a couple to give away tonight. But it's trivia. Trivia. So, I'm going to run this like my classroom. I'm going to say the question. You raise your hand. If you blurt out the answer, I'm kicking you out of the room. Or smashing your cell phone. So, I have 2 to give away. And once the book comes out, I'd like to come back, Don, screen the film, and tell you about some of the crazy, crazy stories that happened in the summer of 1970. A couple children, illegitimate children came out of this, a couple of affairs, and a mediocre film, sorry. Read the book. Okay? Now, here's number 1. These are easy. So I have my field of vision. I'm looking here. The hand's got to go up. This is an Oregon artifact. Okay? Here we go. What is the name of the actor nominated for an Academy Award and Best Supporting Actor? And Sometimes a Great Notion. What is the name of the actor who drowns under the log? Sir? Incorrect. Give you another one. Henry Fonda played the patriarch. Get your hand up. Is a great character actor. He died. That great scene where he drowns under the log. Somebody get their hand up. And by the way, that whole scene was shot. They were drunk out of their mind on scotch. Now you know. Somebody, please. Richard Jekyll. Disappointing, guys. Disappointing. Okay, here we go. Another one. Name the African-American country western singer who sang the Oscar-nominated song from Sometimes a Great Notion, and the song was called All God's Children.
Right.
Oh. Asher, what am I going to do with this?
She was homeschooled. She was homeschooled.
Was that Lindsay Rowe? Yeah. I'm giving her the boot. She's a Okay. I have one left, but I'm out of questions. Okay, let me think of one here. Are there any questions about refuge or this? I'm going to think of a question as you guys are asking me some questions. Yes, sir.
When you were reading the letter that you got from the editor, I read today the introduction to the complete works of Flannery O'Connor, and the editor put in some letters that she had received, and I'll swear that she got the same response that you got.
I think every writer has. I think every musician has. Every artist, when you go to get your slides ready or something. I mean, we go through that. It's like, what do you do? I knew that because of what I was writing about, like the beaches and Vortex and the Trailblazers, I didn't need them. Because I was writing nonfiction books that I could reach an audience. They were based on large Oregon events, beaches, Blazers, and the Vortex, you know? So I was in a different position as somebody who was writing fiction, okay? I knew I could do it. It was just like, and when she threw that roadblock up to me, I was taught, you go around. My dad taught me, you go around. You know, you don't get angry, you don't get embittered, you're just gonna take another path around that. And to me, if that book had been accepted, I would have never gone on to do Vortex, the Blazer book, my sesquicentennial anthology, which that's the book I'm really proud of. And I would have never done any of that stuff. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the letter contained some correct assertions. I had not left the refuge. There was no ending. The ending now is I left because I lost the battle. And I wanted to go back and vandalize it. This is in the new version. When they were going to have, when they got
Paul Newman's chainsaw.
when they were going to hold the opening ceremony, I mean, I damn near went up there and took a chainsaw to that thing, because I knew how to get on the back end and get in there, and I would have never got caught, but they would have known who had done it. But I didn't do it. I let that go. So I understand, and I've read letters of rejection. They're harsh, and this one was just extraordinary, telling me to go back to teach. Which is what I did. So it was kind of prescient in a way. But I know a lot of people pack it in when you get stuff like this. But, and you know, right now this book it's in the upper reaches. I've had one of my good friends is Jim Lynch, the author of The Highest Tide and the Border Songs. He is the guy that has been my advocate. He loves my writing. I don't know why. He's just gone to bat for me. And he got me in. And but it's up to me now, and if that doesn't happen, you know, I've got my Sometimes a Great Notion book. I'm working on another book to commemorate the Aquina Bay Bridge's 75th anniversary, which is next September. You guys know that? It's going to be a big deal in Oregon. I'm going to have a book ready for that, a little small, quirky thing. So I've already got things going that, and I, you know, if the book takes off, I'll send her a copy. Any other questions? Questions? I'm still thinking of it. Yeah.
Just curious, wasn't Jim Lynch a very young writer?
No, Jim's about my age.
Or did
He's about, and he had been a veteran newspaper man. And if you haven't read The Highest Tide, it's one of the great novels to come out of the Northwest in many a year. And his new book was The Border Songs, which was even a better book than that. And he's a phenomenal writer. We're living in an area where there are some incredible writers of fiction going on, and so we're lucky that to have that.
And the other question is, and the guy that designed the bridge also did the famous of the bridge.
Well, that's Condi McCullough. And where's Ray? Ray had to take off. Oh, there's Ray. Ray's working on a book about Condi McCullough, or
Coastal Bridges.
Coastal Bridges. I have an article coming out in the Oregonian tomorrow saying that a coffee table book of Condi McCullough's Bridges could sell a lot of books in Oregon. He's virtually unknown, and hopefully Ray's going to break some ground on this. And I call it Oregon's crowning example of socialism. Hey, if you don't want government largesse, don't drive across the Aquina Bay Bridge. Okay?
Yeah, for
So, yeah, and the remarkable, all those 4 bridges on the coast were built within 18 months, under budget, ahead of schedule, 4 at the same time. And they're still with us. It's incredible. I mean, can we do anything like that in Oregon anymore? You know? So, I could talk about that forever. I'm still thinking of a trivia question. Dawn, do you want the movie since you invited me?
Yeah.
Are there any final questions? Running a little over here. Thank you for this turnout. I'm astonished. There's books for sale. Thank you, Dawn, for inviting me, all the people from Yaha. It's just a wonderful facility. You guys have really done really great by having this for your community. To have writers and artists, all these, I was looking at the list and it's great stuff. So thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.